Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm a Colombo Australian woman living in Melbourne, and just like that we are now in May. And for today's video it's gonna be my April wrap-up. In the month of April I didn't read as much as I wanted to, and it's all because Animal Crossing, because so far I have played more than 235 hours. In my TBR video for April called The Wheel of Booksibilities, these 3 books were winners and I actually didn't get to them this month, May. I'm gonna read them. So the first one is The Calling of Morrigan Crow. The other one that I also already started and actually gonna finish it today or tomorrow is Where the Crawdads Sing. And the last one that I didn't read and I promised to read in the month of April was The Diary of Anne Frank. I'm sorry, and this is the one that has been the longest on my bookshelf. Now let's move on to what I actually read. In the month of April I read 10 books, which is not that bad considering all the amount of hours that I spent playing Animal Crossing. Let's go through some of the statistics of my reading month. 1 book was a 2-star, 1 book was a 3-star, 7 books were 4 or 4.5 stars, and I have 1 book 5 stars, and I'm really excited. Okay, so now let's go through the books that I read. So the first book that I read was an ebook, Funny You Don't Look Autistic by Michael McCreary. As the name says, so Michael is a comedian. This book is all about his journey from discovering his diagnosis through his career and his early beginnings as a comedian. A good read, and I gave it 3 stars. The second book that I read this month was Jane Doe by Victoria Helen Stone, and it's an amazing thriller. I really recommend it. It's a thriller about this psychopath woman that is looking for revenge, and she's a psychopath, like a really crazy psychopath. I read this book because of a recommendation from the Books Like War channel. I really recommend to go and check her channel. She's very good and our taste in books is pretty similar. The third book that I read was 1984 by George Orwell. I already talked about this on previous videos, but it's so good. I started reading it when we started in this lockdown, pandemic, COVID-19 thing. And it was just, I probably wasn't the best book to read back then, but I was surprised about this book. It was so advanced and so true for the time it was reading. It's kind of scary. It's a dystopian book. It's similar to The Handmaid's Tale, but with less rapes, but more scary. Like, people lose freedoms and there is a totalitarian government that is the big brother, and they manage your life and they dictate what you believe and what you think and all that, and they actually change history. And yeah. And just fun fact, if you already know, I didn't know, Big Brother, the show, is based on this book. Fourth book that I read, another thriller by Ruth Ware, and it's The Woman in Cabin 10. Such a good book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. So I have read of Ruth Ware. I already read, what was the name? Not Lock Every Door, but The Key House, The Lost Key, The House with the Key, something about the key, I can't remember at the moment. The Woman in Cabin 10. The book, it's about this journalist that goes to this trip in a boat as a promotional trip to see the Northern Lights. The cruise can be advertised in the magazine that she worked for. And during her first night in the boat, she is sleeping and she's woken up by this very hard sound of someone falling aboard, like dropping into the water, and she believes that someone has been murdered because she had contact with the girl next door, but the next morning apparently no one has ever been in that room next to her. So it's all about, is she going crazy, what happened, who is behind, and all that. And as always, Ruth Ware has a way of telling the stories, a very interesting way of telling the stories. A great book of Ruth Ware, in my opinion, is better than The Secret of the Key, House with the Key, something with the key. The fifth book that I read in April is the 5-star one, and is a memoir called Once a Girl, Always a Boy, and it's about a transgender man, but the book is written by his mom, and it's amazing because it goes from when he was born as a she, so when she was born, and then all the way through what he was feeling when he was a girl but he didn't know he identified as a boy, and then how he kind of started understanding like what he was comfortable with, and all the way up to now that he is completely transformed. It is so interesting because it also tells the story, or tells his journey through his mom's perspective. There are chapters his dad has written, his sister, and himself. So although the author is his mom, you can see the point of view of everyone in his family. I wish this book was kind of mandatory in all the schools and all parents, because it just tells how hard the process is, not only for the person who is going through it, of course, but also for those around that person. So yeah, 5 stars, really good. Then I started reading One of Us is Lying. This is an amazing book. I was really utterly surprised by how much I enjoyed it. I can't wait to read the second part. And it's a book about, there are 5 teenagers in high school, and they all get to be in detention, and they're very different. They are not friends with each other. They kind of hate each other, like, yeah, kind of. So we have the princess, we have a geek, we have one bad boy, like he's been a criminal, we have one of the typical football player, and we have one that has been rejected by society, kind of thing. And shortly after the tension starts, one of them is dead, and someone in the room killed him because he was poisoned. So starts the whole investigation in terms of who did it, which of the 4 is the murderer, and it's told from the 4 people's perspective. So you have one chapter from the geek and another chapter from the princess. So this book reminds me of The Breakfast Club, Harriet's Diary, and it also reminds me of 13 Reasons Why. Yeah, I gave it 4.5 stars because it's really entertaining. If you want something like a mystery kind of thriller kind of, but like very relaxed and very easy to read, One of Us is Lying, it's your pick. After that, I read a graphic novel called Happily Ever After and Everything in Between by Debbie Tang, and she is the same writer than the book club, which was one of the books that I talked in my previous video. So she is a cartoonist and she writes amazing books. The book that I read in April is all about what happens after marriage and your relationship and the quirky things that happen in modern age relationships, and it's so entertaining, so funny, and very easy to read. I mean, it's a cartoon, so a graphic novel, so of course, but it is, if you need some lift me up kind of book, or if you need to smile for half an hour, that book is the one for you. And then the only romance that I read in April was The 5-Year Plan by Carla Burgess. It's all about this woman that has like a life plan, like a 5-year plan, and she met someone ages ago and she didn't get together with that person, that guy, because she had a plan, a career plan, and she didn't want to deviate from that plan, so she didn't go on a trip with that person. And then fast forward 5-6 years, she ran into him again, and they kind of, the story goes back to the past to tell us how everything started. It sounded good. Like when I read the blurb, I was like, oh yeah, I can see myself reading that book. And it didn't deliver. I couldn't care less about the character. I didn't feel connected to the characters, and I read it because I'm really bad at DNF it, but if I was good at it, I would have DNF this book. Woo! the sun came up. And the second to last book that I read was Invisible Woman, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men by Caroline Criado Perez. So many people have talked about this book, so many people have said that it's really interesting, and it is. It's all about how women are at disadvantage in this world, pretty much across everything. So it's full of statistics, it's full of interesting figures across so many topics, talking about what's wrong in the world. That is a little bit depressing. If you are a woman and you are reading this, you are like, oh my god, we are screwed. How are we supposed to succeed? And this book kind of opens your eyes a little bit, even more. And so I will have, I'm gonna say, I didn't actually read the entire book. I kind of skipped because after halfway it becomes a little bit repetitive. I was tired of knowing how screwed we are, but it is really interesting. So Data Geeks, this is the book for you. The last book that I read this month, actually like 2 nights ago, it's a cartoon kind of graphic novel, and it's called Weird Things Customers Say in Bookshops, and it's by Jane Campbell, and I gave it a 4. It's a very interesting short digital book where a bookstore owner shares all the crazy things that customers say to her. It is really hilarious. I was laughing out loud while reading this book. She also has a second version, like a part 2, and I can't wait to read it. Okay, so those were the books that I read in April. It was an okay month. I wish I had read more, but again, Animal Crossing made it very, very hard. Are you reading more than before during COVID-19 lockdown situation, or are you reading less? What type of books are you reading? What are you looking forward to read in May? And yeah, just let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you are not subscribed, please consider subscribing and like this video. I'm Mai, a Colombo Australian woman living in Melbourne, and I will see you soon. Bye!